Right now, imagine your mind becoming like still water, completely untouched by criticism, workplace stress, or life's chaos. In the next 3 hours, I'll share ancient Buddhist principles that make this possible. This isn't about escaping the world, it's about finding unshakable freedom within it. And if this resonates, let me know where you're listening from. Picture this moment. You wake up tomorrow morning, and something fundamental has shifted. The same challenging coworker walks by. The same traffic surrounds you. The same bills wait on your desk. But inside, you feel different. Centered, unshakable, like a mountain that watches storms pass without being moved. This isn't fantasy. It's what the Buddha discovered 2,500 years ago. That peace comes from within, that no external circumstance has the power to disturb your deepest essence unless you allow it. Whether you're listening during a stressful commute, lying in bed after a difficult day, or seeking comfort in a quiet space, you're exactly where you need to be. This moment is your invitation to step into something profound. Take a breath with me. If it feels right, grab a soft blanket or find a position where you can truly relax. This isn't just content you're consuming, it's a sanctuary you're entering. You chose to be here because something inside recognizes a truth, that the constant reactivity, the endless stress, the way external events seem to control your inner state, none of this is actually necessary. There's another way to live. Buddhism teaches a profound truth that can revolutionize how you experience every interaction, every criticism, every difficult moment. No one can truly harm you without your permission. While the words and actions of others may feel sharp, their lasting impact depends entirely on how you choose to respond. This isn't about becoming cold or indifferent. It's about recognizing where your true power lies. When someone speaks harshly to you, what actually happens? Sound waves travel through air and reach your ears. Your mind interprets these vibrations as words, assigns meaning to them, creates a story about what they mean about you, and then generates an emotional response to that story. But here's what the Buddha understood. You are not powerless in this process. Between the sound waves and your suffering lies a space of choice. In that space lives your freedom. The Buddha's revelation came from direct experience, not philosophical theory. Under the Bodhi tree, he saw clearly how the mind creates its own suffering through attachment and identification. He realized that external events are neutral. They become painful only when filtered through our conditioned responses, our fears, our deeply held beliefs about ourselves. This understanding forms the foundation of what Buddhists call the second noble truth, that suffering arises from attachment. We attach to how we think things should be, how people should treat us, how life should unfold. When reality doesn't match our attachments, we suffer. But the attachment is optional. Think of the last time someone's words stung you. Notice how the actual speaking took perhaps 30 seconds, but your mind carried those words for hours, days, maybe weeks. The person moved on with their life while you replayed their words, analyzed their tone, imagined their intentions, and suffered over meanings you assigned to sounds that have already disappeared into silence. This is where the Buddha's teaching becomes liberating. The suffering wasn't in the words themselves, it was in your relationship to the words. And that relationship is something you can change. There's a powerful Zen story that illustrates this perfectly. Master Hakuin was a revered teacher who lived simply in a small village. One day, a young woman in the village became pregnant and, to avoid shame, falsely accused Hakuin of being the father. The villagers were outraged and came to confront him with anger and accusations. When they demanded an explanation, Hakuin simply said, "Is that so?" and continued with his daily activities. After the baby was born, the furious parents brought the child to Hakuin, insisting he take responsibility. Again, he calmly said, "Is that so?" and accepted the baby with tenderness, caring for the child as if it were his own. For months, Hakuin's reputation was destroyed. Former students abandoned him, villagers crossed the street to avoid him, and he was shunned by the community he had served faithfully for years. Through it all, he continued caring for the baby with love and dignity, never defending himself or expressing bitterness. Finally, the young woman could bear her guilt no longer and confessed that a local fisherman was the real father. The villagers rushed to Hakuin with apologies and praise, begging his forgiveness for their terrible mistake. They wanted to take the baby back and restore his honor. Hakuin simply said, "Is that so?" and gently returned the child. This story reveals something profound about how we create our own suffering. Hakuin could have spent months defending his reputation, arguing his innocence, or nurturing resentment toward those who wronged him. Instead, he remained centered in his true nature, unshaken by either condemnation or praise. His peace didn't depend on what others thought of him. When someone criticizes you, hurts your feelings, or treats you poorly, you have a choice. You can spend your precious energy defending, explaining, or resenting. Or you can meet the situation with the same unshakable presence that Hakuin demonstrated, acknowledging what is, without losing yourself in the story. When we cultivate inner peace, we become like a rooted tree in a storm. Have you ever watched an old oak during fierce winds? Its branches bend and sway, sometimes dramatically, but the tree itself remains grounded. Its deep roots anchor it to something more stable than the weather passing through. This is the image the Buddha offered us for inner strength. Life will always bring challenges, criticism, and uncertainty. These are the winds that blow through every human existence. But they cannot uproot you unless your roots are shallow. The tree metaphor appears throughout Buddhist teaching because it captures something essential about resilience. Trees that survive the fiercest storms aren't the rigid ones that resist bending. They're the ones with flexibility above ground and stability below. Their secret lies not in avoiding the storm, but in remaining rooted while the weather passes. What does it mean to have deep roots? It means cultivating a sense of self that isn't dependent on external approval. It means knowing your worth doesn't fluctuate based on other people's opinions. It means understanding that your peace comes from within, not from managing how others treat you. In Zen Buddhism, this rootedness is called original nature, the unchanging awareness that remains constant regardless of what passes through it. Your original nature is like the tree's deep taproot, reaching down to an underground river that never runs dry. No matter how fierce the surface storms, this deeper source remains untouched. The tree doesn't resist the wind. That would make it rigid and likely to break. Instead, it moves with the storm while staying anchored. Similarly, you don't need to become hard or defensive when difficulties arise. You can acknowledge criticism, feel the temporary discomfort, and let it pass through you without taking up permanent residence in your heart. Master Linji, one of the great Zen teachers, said, "There is nothing special to do. Just be ordinary. Relieve yourself, wash your face, put on your clothes, and eat your food. When tired, sleep." This isn't dismissing the profound, it's pointing to the extraordinary ordinariness of an unshakable mind. When you're rooted in your true nature, even criticism becomes just another passing weather pattern, no more significant than clouds crossing the sky. When someone is unkind, their unkindness says something about their inner state, not yours. When someone judges you, their judgment reveals their perspective, not your value. Like a tree that doesn't take the storm personally, you can receive difficult moments without making them about your fundamental worth. Consider how a tree responds to different weather conditions. It doesn't rejoice when the sun shines and despair when clouds gather. It simply remains present with whatever comes, drawing what it needs from each condition. Rain provides water, sun offers energy, wind strengthens its trunk through resistance. Even harsh storms can clear away dead branches, making space for new growth. This perspective transforms how you understand difficult people and challenging situations. That critical coworker might be clearing away your need for external validation. That judgmental family member could be strengthening your ability to trust your own judgment. Even false accusations, like those faced by Master Hakuin, can become opportunities to discover how deeply your peace truly runs. This doesn't happen overnight. Growing deep roots takes time and practice. But every moment offers you the opportunity to choose your response rather than simply react. Every criticism becomes a chance to practice non-attachment. Every difficult person becomes a teacher, showing you where your roots need to grow deeper. The Buddha offered us gentle guidance for this journey when he said, "No one saves us but ourselves. No one can, and no one may. We ourselves must walk the path." This isn't a burden, it's an incredible gift. Think about what this really means. Your happiness doesn't depend on other people changing. Your peace doesn't require perfect circumstances. Your inner strength doesn't need external validation to exist. All of these treasures live within you, waiting to be discovered and cultivated. This teaching liberates us from the exhausting task of trying to control others. How much energy have you spent hoping someone would apologize, change their behavior, or finally understand you? How many hours have you lost to resentment, waiting for justice that may never come? The Buddha's insight offers a different path, the path of inner sovereignty. No one can give you lasting peace because it was never theirs to give. No one can take away your essential worth because it was never dependent on their approval. The path to unshakable inner strength is one you walk yourself, step by gentle step. When we understand this deeply, we begin to see that those who hurt us are often trapped in their own suffering. The critical person may be criticizing themselves more harshly than they criticize you. The angry person might be carrying unhealed wounds that have nothing to do with you. This understanding doesn't excuse harmful behavior, but it helps you respond from wisdom rather than wounded reactivity. This understanding shifts everything. Instead of going through life hoping others will be kind, you develop kindness toward yourself. Instead of seeking validation from external sources, you learn to validate your own experience with compassion. Instead of trying to control how others behave, you focus on cultivating how you respond. So, how do we actually develop this inner strength? The Buddha offered 3 powerful practices that act like water and nutrients for our roots: mindfulness, meditation, and self-reflection. These aren't abstract concepts, but practical tools that can transform your daily experience. Mindfulness is the practice of noticing what's happening in this moment without immediately judging it as good or bad. When someone speaks harshly, mindfulness helps you observe your immediate reaction, the tightening in your chest, the defensive thoughts, the urge to strike back. But instead of being swept away by these reactions, you simply notice them with curious awareness. This creates space. In that space, you can choose how to respond rather than being hijacked by automatic patterns. You might notice there's anger arising instead of "I am angry." This small shift changes everything because it reminds you that emotions are temporary visitors, not permanent residents. The Vietnamese Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh taught that mindfulness is like a gentle mother holding her crying baby. You don't push the baby away or try to stop the crying immediately. You simply hold the child with love and presence until the storm passes. Similarly, when difficult emotions arise from hurtful interactions, you can hold them with mindful awareness rather than being overwhelmed by them. Meditation trains your mind to return to stillness even when disturbed. It's like strengthening a muscle. The more you practice returning to peace, the more natural it becomes. When you sit quietly each day, even for a few minutes, you're teaching your nervous system that calm is always available. You don't meditate to escape life's difficulties. You meditate to meet them from a place of inner stability. Like the tree with deep roots, you develop a core of stillness that remains steady regardless of external weather. This stability becomes your refuge when storms of criticism or judgment blow through your life. In Zen meditation, there's a practice called just sitting, where you simply rest in awareness without trying to achieve any particular state. This teaches you that your essential nature doesn't need to be improved or defended. It simply is. When someone attacks your character or questions your worth, you can return to this knowing of your fundamental completeness. Self-reflection allows you to see patterns that create suffering and gently release them. Perhaps you notice that you always take criticism personally, or that you seek approval from people who are unlikely to give it. Self-reflection isn't about judging these patterns, but about seeing them clearly so you can make different choices. When you regularly examine your reactions with kindness, you begin to understand your triggers and develop healthier responses. You might realize that harsh words hurt most when they echo something you already believe about yourself. This insight allows you to address the underlying self-criticism rather than just defending against external criticism. These practices work together like the sun, rain, and soil that help a tree grow strong. Mindfulness provides the awareness, meditation offers the stability, and self-reflection brings the wisdom to grow from every experience. Together they cultivate what the Buddha called right understanding, seeing clearly how suffering is created and how it can be dissolved. As you develop these inner resources, something beautiful happens. You begin to see insults, anger, and judgment as passing clouds, unable to darken the unshakable sky within you. Your essential nature becomes as vast and unchanging as space itself. Imagine your essential nature as a vast, clear sky. Clouds pass through this sky constantly. Some are fluffy and white, others are dark and stormy. But no cloud, no matter how dramatic, can stain or diminish the sky itself. The sky simply provides space for whatever weather appears, knowing that all clouds are temporary. When someone speaks unkindly, their words are like a passing storm cloud. You can acknowledge the cloud without believing you are the cloud. You can feel the temporary shadow without forgetting the clear sky that remains untouched beneath. This isn't spiritual bypassing or emotional numbness. It's recognizing the difference between the weather and the sky. This doesn't mean becoming emotionally numb. You still feel the rain when storm clouds pass through. But you know the rain is temporary and the sky is permanent. You can be present with difficult emotions without being defined by them. You can feel hurt without believing the hurt defines your worth. Sometimes the clouds bring lessons. Perhaps someone's criticism contains a grain of truth worth considering. From the spaciousness of your sky-like awareness, you can receive this gift without taking on the anger or judgment that delivered it. You can say, "Thank you for that insight," while letting the harsh tone pass through like wind. Other times, the clouds are simply other people's inner weather that has nothing to do with you. Someone's bad mood, their stress, their unresolved hurt. These can express themselves as criticism or judgment directed toward you. But like a mountain that doesn't take the storm personally, you can let their weather pass without absorbing it as your own. This sky-like quality of mind is what Zen calls don't know mind, a spacious awareness that doesn't immediately categorize experiences as good or bad, personal or impersonal. It simply receives whatever arises with openness and clarity. From this perspective, even harsh criticism becomes just another phenomenon arising and passing away in the vast space of awareness. Let's take a moment right now to experience this inner strength for yourself. Find a comfortable position and close your eyes if you feel safe doing so. Take 3 slow, deep breaths, letting each exhale release any tension you're carrying. Now bring to mind the last time someone's words or actions bothered you. Don't analyze or judge what happened. Simply hold the memory gently in your awareness. Notice any tension, hurt, or anger that arises as you remember. Don't try to change these feelings. Just observe them with kindness. Now imagine yourself as that vast, clear sky we talked about. See the difficult memory as a cloud passing through your spacious awareness. The cloud might be dark or stormy, but it cannot stain or diminish the sky of your being. Notice how the sky has room for any weather. It doesn't resist or push away even the darkest storms. Breathe into this sky-like awareness. Let the cloud of the difficult memory simply exist within your vast space without resisting it or pushing it away. Notice how the sky remains unchanged no matter what weather passes through. This is your true nature, vast, unchanging, unshakable. When you're ready, gently open your eyes. This is the unshakable core that lives within you always. This is the part of you that no one can truly hurt without your permission. Remember, becoming unshakable doesn't mean you never feel pain. It means you know the difference between the temporary rain and the eternal sky. It means you can be fully present with life's difficulties without losing yourself in them. Like Master Hakuin saying, "Is that so?" To both praise and blame, you can meet all of life's weather with equanimity. You are not at the mercy of other people's moods, opinions, or actions. You are the keeper of your own peace, the guardian of your own heart. And in this truth, you find a freedom that no external circumstance can take away. In Buddhist practice, we are encouraged to see every person as a teacher. This means that every encounter, whether it brings comfort or discomfort, offers a lesson for our growth. As the Buddha said, "When watching after yourself, you watch after others. When watching after others, you watch after yourself." This profound teaching transforms how we experience every human connection. Long ago, a young monk approached his teacher with a burning question that had troubled him for months. "Master," he said earnestly, "I have been studying diligently, meditating faithfully, and following all the precepts. Yet I feel my wisdom grows slowly. How can I find wise teachers to guide me more quickly along the path?" The teacher looked at his eager student with compassionate eyes and smiled gently. "Come with me," he said, setting down his tea and rising from his cushion. Without explanation, he led the young monk away from the quiet monastery and down the winding mountain path toward the village below. As they approached the town, the sounds of daily life grew louder. Voices called out, wheels creaked along dusty roads, animals brayed, and the general chaos of human activity filled the air. The monk wondered why his teacher had brought him to such a noisy, distracting place when he had asked about finding wisdom. The teacher led him directly to the bustling marketplace, the very heart of the village's commercial activity. Here, the noise was almost overwhelming. Merchants called out their wares in loud voices. Customers haggled vigorously over prices. Children ran between the stalls playing and sometimes crying, and strangers engaged in heated discussions about everything from politics to the weather. The young monk felt increasingly confused and slightly irritated. This seemed like the opposite of the peaceful environment he associated with learning and spiritual growth. He was about to voice his confusion when his teacher stopped in the center of the market square and gestured broadly at the scene around them. "You asked where you could find wise teachers," the master said, his voice calm despite the surrounding commotion. "They are all around you." The monk looked around with fresh eyes, but saw only what he had seen before. "Master, I don't understand," he said, his voice betraying his bewilderment. "I see merchants concerned only with profit, customers focused on getting the best deals, children being disruptive, and people arguing about trivial matters. Where are the wise teachers in all of this chaos?" The teacher's smile deepened as he pointed to a kind merchant who was patiently explaining the qualities of his rice to an elderly customer, even taking extra time to help her select the best grains for her small budget. "Watch him," the teacher said. "See how he treats each customer with respect, regardless of how much they can afford to spend. He teaches you about genuine generosity, not just giving when it's easy, but serving others with care, even when profit is small." The monk watched and began to see the merchant differently. Indeed, the man's patience and kindness were evident in every interaction. He wasn't just selling rice, he was treating each person as worthy of his full attention and respect. "Now observe her," the teacher continued, indicating a woman at a nearby stall who was arguing loudly with a vendor about the quality of his vegetables. Her voice was sharp, her manner demanding, and several other customers were backing away from the unpleasant scene. "What could she possibly teach me?" the monk asked, feeling his earlier irritation return. "She teaches you patience," the teacher replied serenely. Notice how the vendor responds to her anger without becoming angry himself. See how he remains centered while she loses her center. She is showing you exactly what impatience looks like, and he is demonstrating how to meet it with equanimity. Both are your teachers. The monk watched the interaction unfold and realized his teacher was right. The difficult customer was indeed teaching him something valuable about patience, while the vendor was demonstrating how to practice it. Without meaning to, both were offering lessons in how to maintain inner peace during conflict. "And what about those people?" the monk asked, pointing to a group of strangers who seemed completely indifferent to each other, each absorbed in their own concerns and barely acknowledging anyone else's presence. "What could indifferent people possibly teach?" "They teach you self-reliance," the teacher explained patiently. "When others are too busy or preoccupied to offer support, you learn to find strength within yourself. Their indifference isn't personal, it simply reflects their own inner state. And in witnessing their disconnection, you learn the value of being present and engaged with life." The teacher's voice took on a deeper quality as he continued. "Every person is a mirror, my dear student. If you watch carefully, you will learn from all of them. The kind ones reflect back the generosity that lives within you, inspiring you to cultivate it further. The difficult ones show you your own capacity for patience and understanding. The indifferent ones teach you to rely on your own inner resources, rather than seeking constant validation from others." As the teacher spoke, the young monk felt something shift in his perception. The marketplace hadn't changed, but his way of seeing it had transformed completely. Where before he had seen only chaos and distraction, he now saw a vast classroom filled with lessons about human nature, about compassion, about the many ways people cope with life's challenges. "But teacher," the monk said slowly, "if everyone is a teacher, then why do we need formal instruction? Why do we need monasteries and masters? The teacher chuckled softly. Formal teachers help you recognize the lessons that are always present. We point out what you might otherwise miss. But once you develop the eyes to see, every moment becomes an opportunity for learning. Every person becomes a messenger, carrying wisdom. From that day forward, the monk's entire world became his classroom. He no longer waited for special teachers or perfect conditions to appear. Instead, he approached each person he met with curiosity and openness, wondering what lesson they might offer. His spiritual practice transformed from something he did in isolation to something he lived in every interaction. The merchant's gift of patience becomes even more profound when we understand how difficult people serve as our most powerful teachers. Think about the last person who really tested your patience. Perhaps it was someone who cut in front of you in line, a co-worker who consistently missed deadlines, or a family member who always seemed to push your buttons. These individuals aren't accidents in your life. They're opportunities, disguised as annoyances. Every time someone triggers your impatience, they're offering you a chance to practice equanimity. Every moment of frustration becomes a moment to choose your response rather than simply react. Consider the merchant in the marketplace who faced the angry customer. He could have matched her energy, escalating the conflict and ruining both their days. Instead, he used her difficulty as a practice ground for patience. Her anger became his teacher, showing him exactly how to remain centered when someone else loses their center. This perspective doesn't mean you should seek out difficult people or tolerate abuse. It means recognizing that when challenging people do appear in your life, they bring gifts wrapped in uncomfortable packaging. The gift of patience, the gift of compassion, the gift of learning to maintain your peace, regardless of external circumstances. There's a deeper teaching here about the nature of patience itself. Patience isn't passive endurance or gritting your teeth while you wait for something to end. True patience is an active presence that remains open and responsive even when faced with difficulty. It's the quality of mind that can hold space for whatever arises without needing to fix, change, or escape it immediately. When you practice patience with difficult people, you're not just developing a useful social skill. You're cultivating a fundamental quality of awakened consciousness. You're learning to meet life as it is, rather than as you wish it were. And this learning transforms not just your interactions with others, but your entire relationship with reality. The angry customer at the market was suffering. Her harsh words and demanding behavior were expressions of her inner turmoil, not accurate assessments of the merchant's worth. When the merchant met her difficulty with patience, he was practicing a form of compassion that benefits everyone. He didn't absorb her stress or take her behavior personally. Instead, he offered a steady presence that could hold space for her distress without being disturbed by it. This is what patience teaches us: how to be present with suffering without adding to it, how to witness someone's pain without making it our own, how to respond to difficulty with wisdom rather than reactivity. These lessons are invaluable, and they come most clearly through encounters with people who challenge us. Children offer a completely different kind of teaching. In the bustling marketplace, the young monk initially saw the children as disruptive, their crying and playing as distractions from serious spiritual matters. But children are among our greatest teachers when it comes to presence and authenticity. Watch a young child at play, completely absorbed in building a tower of blocks or chasing a butterfly. They're not thinking about yesterday's disappointments or tomorrow's obligations. They're fully present in this moment, engaged completely with what's happening now. This is the quality of mind that meditation teachers spend years trying to cultivate, and children demonstrate it naturally. Children also teach us about emotional honesty. When a child is sad, they cry. When they're happy, they laugh. When they're angry, they express it directly, without layers of complex psychological manipulation. They haven't yet learned to hide their authentic feelings behind social masks. This doesn't mean we should express ourselves exactly like children do. As adults, we've developed emotional regulation skills that serve important social functions. But children remind us that authentic feeling is natural and healthy. They show us what it looks like to experience emotions fully without getting stuck in them permanently. A child who falls down and scrapes their knee will cry intensely for a few minutes, then be completely absorbed in play again once the immediate pain passes. They don't create elaborate stories about how the fall means they're clumsy or unlucky. They don't carry resentment toward the sidewalk that caused their injury. They simply feel what they feel, express it naturally, and return to presence once the feeling passes. Children also demonstrate natural curiosity and openness to learning. They ask questions without worrying about appearing ignorant. They explore their environment with wonder rather than cynicism. They approach new experiences with excitement rather than anxiety about potential failure. This childlike quality of openness is what Zen Buddhism calls beginner's mind, approaching each moment with fresh eyes, free from the burden of past conditioning. Children haven't yet accumulated the mental habits that make adults assume they already know how things should be. They meet each experience with genuine curiosity about what might happen next. In the marketplace, a child might be fascinated by the way sunlight filters through the fabric of the stalls, creating dancing patterns of light and shadow. An adult would likely walk right past this everyday miracle without noticing. The child's attention isn't focused on getting somewhere or accomplishing something. They're simply present with the beauty of this moment, teaching anyone who pays attention how to see wonder in ordinary circumstances. When children cry or become upset in public, they're also teaching us about the naturalness of emotional expression. Adults often judge crying children as poorly behaved or their parents as inadequate. But children are simply being authentic about their inner experience. They haven't learned to suppress their feelings for the comfort of others. In their unfiltered expression, they remind us that emotions are meant to be felt and released, not stored and analyzed endlessly. The Buddha's teaching about watching after yourself and others reveals something profound about the interconnected nature of learning and growth. When you observe yourself carefully, your reactions, your patterns, your habitual responses, you develop insight into the human condition that applies to everyone. Similarly, when you watch others with compassion and curiosity, you learn about aspects of yourself that might otherwise remain hidden. This isn't about judging or analyzing others. It's about recognizing that we're all expressions of the same fundamental human nature. The kindness you see in another person exists within you as well. The patience you witness in someone facing difficulty shows you your own capacity for equanimity. Even the anger or fear you observe in others can teach you about these energies as they arise in your own experience. Every person becomes a mirror, reflecting back different aspects of your own nature. When you see clearly, you realize that separation is an illusion. We're all students and teachers for each other in the great classroom of life. This understanding transforms every interaction into an opportunity for sacred learning. The checkout person at the grocery store becomes a teacher of patience or efficiency. The stranger on public transportation becomes a lesson in presence or distraction. The difficult family member becomes an invitation to practice unconditional love. When you approach life this way, boredom becomes impossible. How can you be bored when every person you meet carries wisdom? Every situation offers lessons. Every moment provides opportunities for growth. The mundane becomes sacred when viewed through eyes that see teachers everywhere. This doesn't mean forcing yourself to find lessons in every interaction or becoming analytical about human behavior. It means cultivating a gentle curiosity about life and maintaining openness to what each person might offer. Sometimes the lesson is obvious. Someone's kindness inspires you to be more generous. Other times the teaching is subtle. Someone's distraction reminds you to be more present. The key is approaching each encounter with what Buddhists call don't know mind, a quality of openness that doesn't assume it already knows what will happen or what someone will be like. This fresh perspective allows you to see people as they actually are, rather than through the filter of your expectations. In the marketplace of daily life, every conversation becomes a classroom. The person who compliments your shirt teaches you about appreciation. The one who ignores your greeting teaches you about non-attachment to others' responses. The individual who shares their troubles teaches you about the universality of suffering and the healing power of listening. Even silent encounters carry teachings. The way someone walks down the street hurried or relaxed, present or distracted, offers insights into different ways of moving through life. The expression on someone's face while they wait in line reveals different relationships to time and patience. The energy someone brings to a shared elevator ride demonstrates various approaches to sharing space with strangers. When you see the world as your classroom, you develop what might be called sacred sight, the ability to perceive the extraordinary wisdom hidden within ordinary human interactions. This perspective cultivates humility because you realize how much there is to learn from everyone. It also develops compassion because you begin to see that everyone is doing the best they can with the understanding they currently have. Most importantly, it transforms daily life from a series of random encounters into a continuous opportunity for spiritual growth. You can begin practicing sacred seeing right now, wherever you are. Start by simply noticing the people around you with fresh eyes. Instead of quickly categorizing them or making assumptions about their lives, try to see them as fellow travelers on the path of being human. When someone does something that annoys you today, pause before reacting and ask yourself, what might this person be teaching me? When you encounter someone who impresses you with their kindness or skill, reflect on how you might cultivate those same qualities in yourself. When you meet someone who seems indifferent or distracted, consider what their example might be showing you about presence and engagement. Practice looking for the humanity in everyone you encounter. Behind every face is a person with hopes, fears, dreams, and struggles, just like yours. Everyone you meet has been a child learning to walk, has experienced disappointment, has known joy. This recognition naturally cultivates the compassion that makes true learning possible. Remember that you too are a teacher for everyone you encounter. Your patience teaches others about calm presence. Your kindness demonstrates the possibility of generosity. Even your struggles, when met with grace, show others how to face difficulty with dignity. In this great web of mutual teaching and learning, we all serve each other's awakening. In Buddhism, acceptance is not resignation. It is a conscious choice to meet reality as it is without resistance or judgment. The Buddha taught, accept what is, let go of what was, and have faith in what will be. This is the essence of living in harmony with the present moment. There's a teaching story that has guided countless seekers toward this understanding. A young monk was given the honor of carrying a precious bowl of water up a steep mountain path to the monastery temple. This wasn't ordinary water. It had been blessed in a sacred ceremony and was destined for an important ritual that would take place at sunset. The monk felt the weight of responsibility as he began his careful ascent. Each step required balance and attention as the narrow path wound through rocky terrain and dense forest. He moved slowly and deliberately, protecting the precious cargo he carried. For the first hour, everything went perfectly. But as he navigated a particularly challenging section where the path curved sharply around a large boulder, his foot slipped on loose gravel. In that moment of lost balance, despite his desperate attempts to steady himself, nearly half the sacred water spilled onto the rocky ground. The monk watched in horror as the blessed liquid soaked into the earth and disappeared between the stones. His first reaction was devastation. How could he face his teacher having failed in such an important task? How could the ceremony proceed with only half the required water? He stood frozen on the path, staring at the wet stones and berating himself for his clumsiness. The weight of disappointment felt heavier than the bowl he still carried. His teacher, an elderly master, known for his wisdom and compassion, had been following at a distance to ensure the monk's safety. Seeing what had happened, he approached with a gentle smile that confused the distressed young man. "Master," the monk said, his voice heavy with regret, "I have failed you. The sacred water is lost, spilled carelessly on these stones. How can I face the community knowing I've ruined the evening ceremony?" The teacher looked down at the wet rocks where the water had fallen, then gazed thoughtfully at the surrounding forest. "Walk with me," he said softly, "but keep your eyes open for what wishes to be seen." Confused but obedient, the monk followed his teacher along the path. They continued climbing for several minutes in contemplative silence. The monk's mind was still consumed with self-criticism and worry about the consequences of his mistake. He barely noticed the beauty of the forest around them or the way late afternoon sunlight filtered through the canopy above. His entire attention was focused on the story of failure he was telling himself about the spilled water. Suddenly, the teacher stopped and pointed to something beside the path. "Look," he whispered, his voice filled with wonder. The monk followed his teacher's gaze and gasped at what he saw. There, growing from a tiny crack in the rocks, exactly where the water had spilled, were several small wildflowers that hadn't been there before. Their delicate petals seemed to glow in the filtered sunlight, and tiny drops of the spilled water still clung to their leaves like jewels. "The water you thought was lost," the teacher said gently, "has given life to something beautiful that couldn't have existed otherwise. While you were focused on what was gone, something new was quietly being born. The ceremony tonight will be meaningful with the water that remains. But these flowers will bless this path for many days to come, bringing joy to every traveler who passes this way." The monk stared at the unexpected blooms, feeling his entire perspective shift. The spilled water hadn't been a failure, it had become a gift to the mountain itself. What he had judged as loss had actually been transformation. The accident he had condemned as carelessness had created beauty in a place where beauty hadn't existed before. Acceptance, the teacher continued, is like seeing those flowers. Life may spill what we think we need, but it often gives something else in return if we stop resisting long enough to notice. When we spend our energy lamenting what's gone, we miss the new gifts that are trying to emerge. The monk realized that his teacher was pointing to something much deeper than flowers growing from spilled water. He was learning about the nature of life itself, how loss and gain are part of the same process, how what appears to be failure can become the seed of unexpected beauty. The accident on the mountain path became a metaphor for all the ways that life doesn't match our plans, and how these departures from our expectations can lead to discoveries we never could have imagined. This teaching about flowing with life's currents becomes even clearer when we consider the image of navigating a river. Imagine yourself in a small boat on a powerful river with a strong current. You have a destination in mind, perhaps a village downstream where you hope to arrive by evening. But the river has its own pace and direction, and fighting against its flow only leads to exhaustion and frustration. If you spend all your energy rowing upstream against the current, you'll quickly become tired and make little progress. Your arms will ache, your boat will be tossed about by the rushing water, and you'll likely end up further from your destination than when you started. Worse yet, your struggle with the river will prevent you from enjoying the journey or noticing the beauty along the banks. But when you align with the river's flow, everything changes. You can still steer your boat and choose your course, but you're working with the water's natural movement rather than against it. Your paddle strokes become efficient and purposeful, guiding rather than forcing. You move downstream with grace and ease, covering more distance with less effort. This doesn't mean you become passive or give up all control. A skilled river navigator knows how to read the current, how to use eddies and backwaters to their advantage, how to avoid dangerous rapids while still making progress downstream. They understand that cooperation with the river's power is far more effective than opposition to it. Life works exactly the same way. When you resist what's happening, fighting against illness, raging against injustice, refusing to accept changes in relationships or circumstances, you exhaust yourself without changing the fundamental flow of events. Your resistance doesn't stop the river, it only makes your journey more difficult and prevents you from navigating skillfully. But when you learn to move with life's currents, while still maintaining your ability to steer, you discover a profound sense of ease and effectiveness. You can respond to challenges without being overwhelmed by them. You can adapt to unexpected changes without losing your sense of direction. You can experience setbacks without interpreting them as personal failures. This skill of flowing with life while maintaining purposeful direction is what Buddhists call right effort. It's the balance between striving and surrendering, between caring deeply about outcomes while holding them lightly. Like a river navigator who guides their boat downstream, You learn to work with the conditions you're given, rather than fighting for the conditions you wish you had. Sometimes the river of life carries you through calm, peaceful stretches, where navigation is easy and the scenery is beautiful. During these times, acceptance feels natural and effortless. But the river also includes rapids, unexpected turns, and obstacles that require all your skill and attention. These challenging sections are where acceptance becomes most difficult and most necessary. When you encounter the rapids of serious illness, relationship breakdowns, career setbacks, or loss of loved ones, your first instinct might be to fight against the current. You want to paddle upstream, back to calmer waters, back to a time when things were easier. But the river only flows in one direction, forward through time, forward through experience, forward through the continuous unfolding of life. Acceptance in these moments doesn't mean giving up or becoming passive. It means acknowledging the reality of your current situation, while using all your wisdom and skill to navigate it as well as possible. You still paddle, you still steer, you still make choices about how to respond. But you do all of this in cooperation with the river rather than in opposition to it. The flowers that bloomed from the spilled water teach us something beautiful about finding meaning in apparent loss. What the young monk initially experienced as failure became the source of unexpected beauty. The sacred water didn't disappear. It transformed into something that could bless the mountain path for weeks to come. This principle applies to every loss and disappointment in our lives. The job you didn't get might redirect you toward work that's more aligned with your true calling. The relationship that ended might make space for deeper self-understanding and more authentic connections. The illness that slowed you down might teach you to appreciate simple pleasures you had been too busy to notice. None of this means that loss isn't painful, or that we should pretend disappointment doesn't hurt. The monk's initial distress about spilling the water was natural and understandable. Grieving what's gone is part of the human experience. But when we hold our grief lightly and remain open to what's emerging, we create space for new forms of beauty to appear. Sometimes the flowers that grow from our spilled water are immediately visible. Other times, they take seasons or even years to bloom. The key is trusting that nothing is ever truly wasted, that every experience, even painful ones, can become soil for future growth. This doesn't minimize the reality of loss, but it opens us to the possibility that loss and gain are part of the same mysterious process. When you lose something precious, whether it's a person, a dream, a capability, or a phase of your life, you can honor what's gone while remaining curious about what wants to emerge. The love you felt for someone who died doesn't disappear. It can transform into deeper compassion for others who are grieving. The career that ended might become the foundation for discovering talents you never knew you had. The health challenges that change your body's capabilities might lead to appreciating life in ways that perfect health never could. This perspective requires what might be called transformational vision, the ability to see potential beauty in apparent destruction, to recognize that endings are also beginnings. It's the wisdom of the seasons, understanding that autumn's falling leaves become spring's fertile soil. Nothing in nature is ever truly lost. It simply changes form and continues contributing to the ongoing dance of life. The Buddha's teaching about accepting what is, letting go of what was, and having faith in what will be, offers a complete framework for living in harmony with change. Accept what is doesn't mean you have to like everything that happens. It means acknowledging reality without adding the extra suffering that comes from resistance. Let go of what was addresses our tendency to cling to the past, whether we're holding on to beautiful memories or painful regrets. The past shaped you, but it doesn't define you. Yesterday's successes don't guarantee today's happiness, and yesterday's failures don't determine today's possibilities. Letting go creates space for fresh experiences and new ways of being. Have faith in what will be isn't about believing everything will work out exactly as you hope. It's about trusting the process of life itself, the same process that turns seeds into flowers, winter into spring, and spilled water into unexpected beauty. This faith doesn't require knowing what's coming next. It simply requires believing that whatever comes can be met with wisdom and grace. Acceptance becomes active compassion when we realize that everyone is navigating the same river, facing the same challenges of flowing with life, while maintaining their sense of direction. When someone is struggling with acceptance, fighting against their circumstances, or clinging desperately to what's passing away, you can offer them the same gentle presence that the teacher offered the distressed monk. This compassionate acceptance doesn't mean trying to fix others or convince them to see things your way. It means creating space for their experience exactly as it is, without judgment or the need to change anything. Sometimes the most healing thing you can offer someone is your willingness to sit with them in their pain without trying to make it go away. When you practice acceptance toward others, you're also practicing it toward yourself. Every time you refrain from judging someone's struggle, you strengthen your ability to meet your own struggles with kindness. Every moment you choose understanding over criticism, you cultivate the inner environment where true healing becomes possible. Compassionate acceptance also recognizes that resistance is often a necessary stage in the process of letting go. Just as the monk needed to feel his disappointment about the spilled water before he could see the flowers, we sometimes need to fully experience our resistance before we can surrender it. Rushing toward acceptance can become another form of resistance, fighting against the natural process of coming to terms with reality. True acceptance often arrives gradually, like dawn slowly brightening the sky. First, there might be moments of recognition that fighting isn't working, Then periods of experimentation with letting go. Eventually, a growing sense of ease with what is, accompanied by renewed energy for engaging wisely with life's ongoing challenges. Acceptance also becomes active compassion when you realize that your own peace contributes to the peace of the world. When you stop adding your resistance to the world's suffering, you become a source of calm stability that others can feel. Your acceptance doesn't solve everyone's problems, but it creates a pocket of tranquility in the midst of chaos. Like the flowers growing from spilled water, your peaceful presence becomes a blessing that extends far beyond your immediate circumstances. Let's create a gentle practice for letting go with love that you can carry into your daily life. Find a quiet space where you can sit comfortably for a few minutes without interruption. Close your eyes and take 3 slow, deep breaths, allowing each exhale to release any tension you're holding. Bring to mind something you've been resisting or struggling to accept. It might be a change in your life circumstances, a loss you're grieving, or a situation that isn't unfolding as you hoped. Hold this situation gently in your awareness without trying to fix or change anything about it. Now, imagine holding this situation like a bird that has landed in your open palms. You can appreciate the bird's beauty, feel its warmth, and enjoy its presence for as long as it chooses to stay. But you cannot force it to remain, and trying to grasp it tightly would only cause harm to both of you. With each breath, practice the gentle art of holding without grasping. Let your hands remain open, your heart remains soft, and your mind remains spacious. If the bird flies away, trust that its departure makes space for whatever wants to arrive next. As you breathe, silently repeat these words. I accept what is. I release what was. I trust what will be. Let these phrases become like a gentle river, carrying away your resistance and flowing toward peace. When you're ready, slowly open your eyes and carry this quality of open-handed acceptance into your day. Remember that letting go isn't about not caring. It's about caring so deeply that you're willing to love without conditions, to hold without grasping, and to trust the mysterious process that turns all our spilled water into flowers. In Buddhist teaching, gratitude is more than a pleasant feeling. It is a way of seeing the world that changes how we live each moment. It shifts our focus from what is missing to what is present, from scarcity to abundance. As the Buddha reminded us with gentle wisdom, even the smallest blessings deserve our recognition and appreciation. The Buddha's teaching on gratitude emerged from his deep understanding of how the mind creates suffering through constant comparison and wanting. He observed that humans have a tendency to focus on what they lack rather than appreciating what they already possess. This mental habit creates a persistent sense of dissatisfaction that can cloud even the most beautiful moments. His revolutionary insight was that happiness doesn't come from having more, but from fully recognizing what's already here. He taught his followers to find joy in the most basic aspects of existence, learning, health, and life itself. This wasn't about lowering expectations or settling for less. It was about discovering the extraordinary richness hidden within ordinary experience. The Buddha's approach to gratitude was brilliantly practical. He understood that people often dismiss small blessings while waiting for grand achievements or perfect circumstances. So he invited his students to appreciate incremental progress, modest health, and the simple fact of being alive. These aren't consolation prizes for those who fail to achieve greatness. They're the fundamental gifts that make all other experiences possible. Consider what it means to learn a little in the context of a full day. Perhaps you discovered something new about a colleague's perspective during a conversation. Maybe you noticed how morning light falls differently across your kitchen table as the seasons change. Or you realize that taking 3 deep breaths before responding to frustration actually works. These small learnings might seem insignificant, but they represent the ongoing miracle of consciousness, expanding, and wisdom deepening. The Buddha recognized that every day offers countless opportunities for discovery if we pay attention. Even routine activities become sources of insight when approached with curiosity rather than automaticity. The way hot water transforms dried tea leaves into a fragrant beverage reveals something about transformation itself. The feeling of soap and warm water on your hands while washing dishes connects you to the simple pleasure of cleanliness and care. These moments of everyday learning accumulate into a life rich with wonder and appreciation. Health, the Buddha taught, is perhaps our most undervalued blessing. When our body functions smoothly, we rarely think about the intricate coordination required for breathing, digestion, circulation, and movement. We take for granted the miraculous cooperation of billions of cells working together to sustain our existence. Only when illness strikes do we suddenly appreciate the gift of feeling well. But the Buddha's teaching invites us to appreciate health while we have it, not just when it's threatened. This means noticing the pleasure of easy breathing, the comfort of a body free from pain, the energy that allows you to walk across a room or lift a cup of tea. Even partial health, the ability to see, hear, think, or move in any capacity, represents an incredible blessing that millions of people would treasure. The deepest level of the Buddha's gratitude teaching focuses on existence itself. Being alive is so fundamental that we rarely consider how remarkable it is. Yet conscious awareness, the ability to experience anything at all, is the prerequisite for every joy, every learning, every connection we'll ever have. Without life, there are no second chances, no opportunities for growth, no possibilities for love or wisdom or peace. This perspective transforms how we understand difficult days. Even when nothing seems to go right, when you feel you've learned nothing new and your body aches with fatigue or stress, the fact that you're experiencing these challenges means you're alive. And being alive means tomorrow offers fresh possibilities. Every breath you take is another chance to respond differently, to choose more wisely, to love more freely. The Buddha's graduated approach to gratitude, appreciating much learning, then little learning, then health, then life itself, provides a safety net for the heart. On days when you feel accomplished and everything flows smoothly, gratitude comes easily. But on challenging days when progress seems minimal and satisfaction feels elusive, you can still find genuine reasons for appreciation. This isn't about forcing false positivity, but about recognizing authentic blessings that are always present. One of the most accessible doorways into gratitude is through simple sensory experiences that we encounter every day. Consider the ritual of making and drinking tea, an activity so ordinary that it usually happens without conscious attention. Yet within this simple practice lies a profound meditation on appreciation and interconnection. Begin by noticing the morning sunlight as it enters your kitchen window. This light has traveled 93 million miles to reach you, carrying energy that will warm your face and illuminate your day. The same sun that rises for you also rises for billions of other people around the world, connecting you to the vast community of Earth's inhabitants. For this moment, you share the gift of daylight with farmers in distant fields, children walking to school, and elders sitting quietly on park benches. As you fill your kettle with water, pause to appreciate this clear, life-giving liquid. The water flowing from your tap has moved through an incredible journey, falling as rain, flowing through rivers, being purified by natural processes and human ingenuity. It carries minerals from ancient rocks and has been part of countless other lives before reaching you. In some parts of the world, people walk for hours to find clean water. Yet it arrives at your sink with the simple turn of a handle. Watch the steam rise as the water heats, transforming from liquid to vapor before your eyes. This change of state represents one of nature's fundamental principles, that everything is in constant flux, always transforming, never remaining exactly the same. The rising steam carries warmth and moisture into the air, humidifying your kitchen and creating the perfect atmosphere for preparing tea. When you place tea leaves in your cup, you're participating in a tradition that spans thousands of years and countless cultures. These leaves grew on bushes, tended by farmers, whose hands carefully picked each leaf at just the right moment. The leaves were processed, dried, and transported across possibly thousands of miles to reach your kitchen. Workers in factories, drivers on highways, and store clerks all played a role in bringing this tea to you. As the hot water meets the tea leaves, notice the transformation happening in your cup. The clear water becomes amber, then deeper brown as the leaves release their essence. The aroma rises to meet your senses, carrying hints of the soil where the tea grew, the rain that nourished it, and the sun that powered its growth. This fragrance connects you directly to the earth and weather patterns of distant landscapes. Hold the warm cup in your hands and feel the heat transfer from ceramic to skin. Your hands, with their intricate network of bones, muscles, and nerves, can sense temperature, texture, and weight with remarkable precision. The warmth of the cup spreads through your palms and fingers, creating a simple but profound comfort. This sensation of warmth connects you to the fire that heated the water, the earth that provided the clay for the cup, and the hands that shaped it. Take your first sip slowly, allowing the liquid to fill your mouth before swallowing. Notice how your taste buds recognize different flavors, perhaps earthiness, sweetness, or subtle bitterness. Your body immediately begins the process of absorbing the liquid, distributing it to cells throughout your system. The caffeine, if present, will soon reach your brain, gently increasing alertness and focus. This simple tea-drinking meditation reveals layers of gratitude that are present in every moment, but usually overlooked. The sun, water, earth, plants, and countless human beings have all contributed to this one cup of tea. Your ability to see, smell, taste, and feel allows you to receive all these gifts. Even your capacity to reflect on the experience represents the remarkable nature of human consciousness. When we expand this awareness beyond tea to encompass our entire daily experience, we begin to see the vast web of interconnection that supports every moment of our lives. The Buddha taught that nothing exists independently. Everything arises through the cooperation of countless conditions. This insight naturally cultivates what he called interdependence awareness, recognizing how profoundly connected we are to all life. Consider the simple act of breathing, which happens automatically thousands of times each day. The oxygen you breathe was produced by trees and plants through photosynthesis, their gift to all breathing creatures. These plants absorbed carbon dioxide that you and others exhaled, creating a perfect cycle of mutual support. Every breath you take connects you directly to the forest ecosystems and urban gardens that produce the air you need to live. The food you eat carries the energy of the sun, stored in grains, fruits, and vegetables through the miracle of plant growth. Farmers planted, tended, and harvested these crops, often working in challenging weather conditions to provide nourishment for people they'll never meet. transportation workers, grocery store employees, and countless others participated in bringing this food from farm to your table. Even the soil that grew your food was enriched by generations of decomposing plants and animals, each contributing to the fertility that sustains new life. The clothes you wear were created through the cooperation of plants that grew cotton or other fibers, animals that provided wool, and workers who spun, wove, cut, and sewed these materials into garments. The roof over your head was built by carpenters, electricians, plumbers, and many other skilled workers, using materials harvested from forests and quarries. Even the knowledge you use to navigate daily life was passed down through generations of teachers, writers, and wisdom keepers who preserved and shared human understanding. This web of interdependence extends to emotional and spiritual support as well. Every kind word you've received, every moment of encouragement, every expression of love has contributed to your ability to face life's challenges. The scientists who developed modern medicine, the engineers who designed safe transportation, and the countless people who maintain the infrastructure of civilization all contribute to your well-being in ways that are usually invisible. Recognizing this interconnected web doesn't diminish your individual worth or accomplishments. Instead, it reveals how your existence is supported by an infinite network of generosity and mutual aid. You are not separate from this web. You are an integral part of it, both receiving and giving support in countless ways. Every breath you take, every kind word you speak, every moment of peace you cultivate, ripples out to benefit the whole web of life. As the Buddha said, with such beautiful simplicity, let us rise up and be thankful. For if we didn't learn a lot today, at least we learned a little. And if we didn't learn a little, at least we didn't get sick. And if we got sick, at least we didn't die. So let us all be thankful. This teaching offers a ladder of gratitude that you can climb on any day, regardless of circumstances. It acknowledges that some days are more blessed than others, while insisting that every day contains reasons for appreciation. The practice is finding the appropriate level of gratitude for whatever you're experiencing, then resting in that appreciation rather than reaching for what you don't have. Cultivating sacred appreciation requires intention and practice, just like any other beneficial habit. One powerful approach is keeping a gratitude journal, but not in the superficial way that's often suggested. Instead of quickly listing 3 things you're grateful for, take time to explore one blessing deeply each day. Write about how this blessing came to be, who contributed to making it possible, and how it connects you to the larger web of life. Another practice is gratitude meditation, where you sit quietly and systematically appreciate different aspects of your current experience. Begin with your body, the miracle of circulation, the gift of sensation, the remarkable coordination that allows movement. Then expand to your immediate environment, the shelter around you, the temperature that keeps you comfortable, the sounds that connect you to life beyond your walls. Gradually include your relationships, your opportunities for learning and growth, and finally, the vast natural systems that sustain all life on Earth. Mindful appreciation throughout the day transforms ordinary activities into opportunities for gratitude. When you wash your face, appreciate the gift of clean water and the sensation of freshness. When you eat, pause to acknowledge the sun, rain, and soil that created your food. When you interact with others, recognize the privilege of communication and connection. These moments of conscious appreciation don't take extra time. They simply add depth and richness to activities you're already doing. Expressing gratitude to others creates ripples of appreciation that extend far beyond the immediate interaction. Thank the bus driver, the store clerk, the person who holds a door open for you. These expressions of appreciation often brighten someone's entire day and remind them that their contributions matter. When you acknowledge the people who support your daily life, you're participating in the web of mutual recognition that strengthens human community. Even in difficult times, the practice of sacred appreciation can provide anchor points of stability and hope. During illness, you might appreciate the parts of your body that are still functioning well. During conflict, you can recognize the gift of eventually learning and growing from challenge. During loss, you might feel grateful for the time you had with whatever or whoever is gone. This isn't about denying pain, but about maintaining connection to sources of nourishment, even when life feels depleted. Let's practice a simple 3-breath gratitude technique that you can use anywhere, anytime, to reconnect with appreciation. This practice is particularly helpful when you're feeling stressed, overwhelmed, or disconnected from joy. First, take a slow, deep breath and appreciate something about your body that's working well right now. Perhaps your heart beating steadily, your lungs drawing in air effortlessly, or your eyes allowing you to see these words. Let your appreciation for this physical blessing fill the entire breath. On your second breath, extend your gratitude to someone who has supported you recently. This might be a family member, friend, co-worker, or even a stranger who offered a kind gesture. Feel the warmth of connection as you breathe in appreciation for their presence in your life. With your third breath, expand your gratitude to include something in the natural world that sustains you. The air you're breathing, the sunlight streaming through windows, the trees producing oxygen, or the rain that waters the earth. Let this breath connect you to the vast web of life that supports your existence. These 3 breaths of gratitude can shift your entire perspective in less than a minute. They remind you that appreciation is always available, regardless of external circumstances. you carry within you the capacity to recognize blessings, to feel connected to others, and to appreciate your place in the magnificent web of existence. In Buddhism, ethical living is more than a moral choice. It is the foundation of a peaceful, purposeful life. The Buddha taught, "The mind is everything. What you think you become. Our thoughts shape our actions, and our actions shape the world around us." When we live with integrity, compassion, and respect for all beings, we not only improve our own lives, but also contribute to the harmony of the world. There's a beautiful teaching story that captures the essence of how ethical living creates unshakable inner strength. A young monk, having spent months studying Buddhist texts and practicing meditation, approached his teacher with a question that had been weighing heavily on his heart. "Master," he said with earnest concern, "I have been following the path diligently, yet I still feel vulnerable to the storms of life. How can I live in a way that cannot be shaken by the world?" The teacher, a wise master who had guided countless students toward awakening, looked at his student with eyes full of compassion. He understood that this was not merely an intellectual question, but a cry from the heart of someone genuinely seeking stability in an uncertain world. Without speaking, he stood and gestured for the monk to follow him outside the monastery walls. They walked together through the temple gardens, past the meditation halls, and up a small hill behind the monastery where ancient trees had grown for centuries. The wind was strong that day, and many of the trees were swaying dramatically in the gusts. Some smaller trees bent so far that their branches nearly touched the ground, while others stood more rigidly, their trunks creaking under the pressure. The teacher stopped before a magnificent bamboo grove and pointed to the tall, slender stalks dancing gracefully in the wind. "See how it bends but does not break," he said, his voice carrying both gentleness and authority. The monk watched as the bamboo swayed deeply from side to side, sometimes bending at angles that seemed impossible, yet always returning to its upright position. The wind that might have snapped a rigid tree seemed only to make the bamboo more beautiful in its flowing response. "It stands strong because its roots are deep," the teacher continued, kneeling down to brush away some soil at the base of one bamboo stalk. The monk could see the intricate network of roots spreading in all directions underground, some thick and substantial, others fine and delicate, all working together to anchor the plant firmly in the earth. These roots have been growing for years, slowly, steadily, reaching deep into the soil and spreading wide for stability. The teacher looked directly into his student's eyes. "Your roots are your ethics," he said with quiet intensity. "Honesty, kindness, and respect anchor you. Without them, the storms of life will uproot you. But when these qualities become the foundation of everything you do, you can bend with any wind while remaining firmly grounded in who you truly are." The monk studied the bamboo more carefully, beginning to understand the profound metaphor his teacher was offering. The bamboo's strength wasn't in its ability to resist the wind. That would have made it brittle and likely to break. Its strength lay in its flexibility, combined with its deep foundation. It could yield to external forces, while never losing its essential nature or its connection to the earth that sustained it. "But Master," the monk asked thoughtfully, "how do I grow these roots? How do I develop ethics so deeply that they become unshakable?" The teacher smiled and pointed to the bamboo again. "Notice that bamboo doesn't grow its roots all at once," he said. "Each day, each season, the root system extends a little further, grows a little stronger. Your ethical foundation develops the same way, through daily choices, moment-by-moment decisions, consistent practice over time." He picked up a handful of rich, dark soil. Every time you choose truth over deception, you add nutrients to your ethical soil. Every act of kindness deepens your roots. Every moment of respect for others strengthens your foundation. These aren't dramatic gestures that happen once and create permanent change. They're quiet, daily practices that accumulate into unshakable character. The monk understood that his teacher was describing a completely different approach to spiritual development than he had been imagining. He had thought that enlightenment or inner strength would come through intense meditation or profound insights achieved in dramatic moments. But his teacher was pointing to something more subtle and ultimately more powerful: the gradual cultivation of ethical integrity through countless small choices. "Strength is not in resisting the wind," the teacher continued, "but in living so firmly in truth and compassion that nothing can move your heart from its place." The bamboo doesn't fight against the storm, it dances with it while remaining rooted. Similarly, you don't need to resist life's challenges or try to control every external circumstance. You need to live with such integrity that your responses arise naturally from your deepest values, regardless of what pressures you face. The teacher gestured toward the entire bamboo grove, where hundreds of stalks moved together in harmony with the wind. "Notice also that bamboo grows in community," he said. "The individual stalks support each other through their interconnected root systems. Your ethical living doesn't just benefit you, it strengthens the entire community of beings around you. When you live with integrity, you make it easier for others to do the same." As they walked back toward the monastery, the monk felt a deep shift in his understanding. He had been seeking some kind of invulnerability, some way to avoid being affected by life's difficulties. But his teacher had shown him something far more valuable: how to remain flexible and responsive while being anchored in unshakable principles. The goal wasn't to become hard or rigid, but to become like bamboo, graceful, strong, and deeply rooted. From that day forward, the monk approached his spiritual practice differently. Instead of focusing only on meditation and study, he paid careful attention to every interaction, every choice, every opportunity to embody honesty, kindness, and respect. He discovered that ethical living was not a burden or a set of restrictive rules, but a path to the freedom and stability he had been seeking all along. The deep roots of character that the teacher spoke of, honesty, kindness, and respect, form what Buddhism calls the foundation of right living. These aren't arbitrary moral prescriptions imposed from outside, but practical principles that create the conditions for inner peace and harmonious relationships. When these qualities become genuinely integrated into our daily lives, they provide the unshakable foundation that allows us to navigate any circumstance with grace and wisdom. Honesty is the cornerstone of this ethical foundation because it aligns our inner and outer worlds. When we speak truthfully, we don't need to remember complex webs of deception or worry about being discovered in contradictions. Our minds remain clear and simple, focused on responding to reality rather than maintaining false narratives. This mental clarity creates a sense of ease and authenticity that others can feel, building trust and deeper connections in all our relationships. But honesty goes deeper than just avoiding lies. It includes being truthful with ourselves about our motivations, our strengths and limitations, our fears and desires. This self-honesty prevents us from living in denial or creating elaborate stories to justify behavior that doesn't align with our values. When we can see ourselves clearly, with both compassion and accuracy, we're better able to make choices that truly serve our long-term well-being and growth. Honest communication also means speaking in ways that are both truthful and helpful. The Buddha taught about right speech, words that are true, necessary, and kind. This doesn't mean we never address difficult topics or avoid saying things people might not want to hear. It means we speak from a place of genuine care rather than ego or manipulation, with the intention of contributing to understanding and healing rather than causing harm. When honesty becomes a deep habit rather than an occasional choice, it creates what we might call structural integrity in our lives. Like a building with a solid foundation, our words and actions align with our inner values, creating stability that can withstand external pressures. People learn to trust us because our behavior is consistent and predictable in the best sense, grounded in principles, rather than shifting with convenience or mood. Kindness extends this foundation by ensuring that our honesty serves compassion rather than self-righteousness. Kindness isn't mere politeness or artificial sweetness, but a genuine concern for the well-being of all beings we encounter. It recognizes that everyone we meet is struggling in some way, carrying burdens we can't see, doing their best with the understanding and resources they currently have. This perspective naturally leads to patience with others' shortcomings and generosity toward their efforts. When someone is rude or difficult, kindness helps us remember that their behavior is likely an expression of their own pain or confusion rather than an accurate assessment of our worth. This understanding allows us to respond with compassion rather than defensiveness, breaking cycles of reactivity and creating space for healing. Kindness also includes self-compassion, treating ourselves with the same gentle understanding we would offer a good friend facing similar challenges. This prevents the harsh self-criticism that undermines confidence and creates internal conflict. When we're kind to ourselves, we have more emotional resources available for extending genuine care to others. Self-compassion becomes the foundation for authentic compassion toward all beings. The practice of kindness gradually transforms our default responses to life's inevitable frustrations and disappointments. Instead of immediately reacting with irritation or judgment, we develop the habit of pausing to consider how we might respond in ways that contribute to healing rather than harm. This doesn't mean becoming passive or failing to address important issues. It means addressing them from a place of care rather than anger, wisdom rather than reactivity. Respect completes this ethical foundation by recognizing the inherent dignity and worth of every being we encounter. Respect acknowledges that each person has their own unique perspective, their own valid experience, their own journey of learning and growth. Even when we disagree with someone's choices or find their behavior challenging, respect maintains an appreciation for their basic humanity and their potential for wisdom and healing. This quality of respect prevents us from dismissing others as unworthy of consideration or treating them as obstacles to our own agenda. Instead, it maintains an openness to what we might learn from every interaction and a recognition that our own well-being is intimately connected to the well-being of others. Respect creates the foundation for genuine dialogue and mutual understanding, even across differences of opinion or lifestyle. Respect also extends to the natural world and all the non-human beings that share our planet. This broader perspective recognizes that we are part of an intricate web of life where the health of each element contributes to the health of the whole. When we treat the environment with respect, we're acknowledging our dependence on natural systems and our responsibility to future generations. Together, honesty, kindness, and respect create what the bamboo's roots represent, a foundation so deep and strong that external storms cannot uproot us. These qualities become the soil from which all our actions grow, ensuring that our responses to life's challenges arise from our highest values rather than our immediate impulses. Like bamboo roots that spread and deepen gradually over time, ethical character develops through countless small choices, made consistently over months and years. The Buddha's teaching that the mind is everything and what you think you become points to one of the most profound discoveries in all of human understanding. Our thoughts don't just reflect reality, they actively participate in creating it. This isn't mystical thinking, but a practical recognition of how consciousness shapes experience through the choices we make based on our mental patterns and beliefs. Consider how your thoughts influence your daily experience in immediate, tangible ways. When you wake up thinking, "This is going to be a difficult day," you unconsciously look for evidence to confirm that expectation. You notice traffic more acutely, feel more irritated by minor inconveniences, and interpret neutral events through a lens of difficulty. Your expectation doesn't magically create external problems, but it shapes how you perceive and respond to whatever actually occurs. Conversely, when you begin a day with thoughts of curiosity or appreciation, you're more likely to notice opportunities, feel grateful for small pleasures, and approach challenges with creativity rather than resistance. The external circumstances might be identical, but your experience of them can be completely different based on the mental framework you bring to each moment. This principle extends far beyond daily mood management to encompass the entire trajectory of our lives. People who consistently think of themselves as victims tend to make choices that reinforce that identity, unconsciously avoiding opportunities for empowerment or interpreting setbacks as confirmation of their helplessness. Those who think of themselves as capable learners approach challenges as growth opportunities and persist through difficulties because they believe that effort leads to improvement. The Buddha recognized that these mental patterns become so automatic that we often don't realize we're choosing them. Thoughts seem to arise spontaneously, carrying us along like passengers in a vehicle we forgot we were driving. But mindfulness practice reveals that we have much more influence over our thinking than we typically recognize. We can learn to observe our thoughts, question their accuracy, and consciously choose mental patterns that serve our highest aspirations. This doesn't mean forcing positive thinking or denying difficult realities. It means developing the ability to think clearly and skillfully about whatever we're facing. When confronted with a genuine problem, we can choose thoughts that support effective problem solving rather than thoughts that increase anxiety or despair. When experiencing loss or disappointment, we can acknowledge the pain while also maintaining perspective and hope for eventual healing. The transformation happens gradually as we become more conscious of our mental habits and more intentional about cultivating beneficial patterns of thinking. Thoughts of gratitude, compassion, curiosity, and possibility slowly become more natural and automatic. This shift in mental climate then influences our actions, which in turn shape our external circumstances and relationships. Over time, we literally become what we have been thinking, not through magic, but through the practical consequences of living from transformed consciousness. This understanding also reveals why ethical living is so powerful in creating unshakable peace. When our actions consistently align with our highest values, we develop what psychologists call cognitive consonance, a harmony between our beliefs and our behavior. This alignment eliminates the internal conflict that comes from knowing what we believe is right, while acting in ways that contradict those beliefs. The mind becomes clear and unified, rather than split between competing values and impulses. Ethical thinking also protects us from the mental pollution that comes from harboring resentment, planning deception, or nurturing harmful intentions. When we consistently think thoughts of goodwill and integrity, our mental environment becomes naturally peaceful and clear. We don't waste energy on complicated schemes or worry about covering our tracks because our actions arise from transparent, beneficial intentions. This mental clarity becomes a source of strength and confidence that remains stable regardless of external circumstances. Buddhism teaches that karma is not a system of cosmic punishment and reward, but simply the natural law of cause and effect as it operates in the realm of intentional action. Every action we take based on a particular intention creates conditions that influence future experiences. When we act with kindness, we create conditions for receiving kindness. When we act with deception, we create conditions for experiencing mistrust and confusion. This isn't about keeping a cosmic score sheet where good deeds earn points and bad deeds create debts. It's about recognizing that our actions shape both our character and our relationships in ways that naturally influence what comes back to us. People tend to respond to genuine kindness with kindness, to honesty with trust, to respect with respect. These responses aren't guaranteed in every individual interaction, but they represent the general pattern of how ethical living creates conditions for peace and harmony. The most immediate karmic consequences are internal. When we act with integrity, we feel the satisfaction of alignment with our values. When we act harmfully, we experience the discomfort of cognitive dissonance and often guilt or regret. These internal responses are natural feedback mechanisms that guide us toward choices that support our well-being and away from choices that create suffering. Understanding karma helps us make decisions based on their long-term consequences rather than just their immediate rewards. The Buddha's image of the single lamp that can light many others without losing its own flame beautifully illustrates how ethical living naturally spreads to benefit others. When you live with integrity, kindness, and respect, you don't diminish these qualities by sharing them. Instead, you make it easier for others to access these same qualities within themselves. Think about how you feel when you encounter someone who is genuinely honest, consistently kind, or deeply respectful. Their presence tends to bring out your own better nature, inspiring you to speak more truthfully, act more generously, or treat others with greater consideration. This isn't because they preach or lecture, but because their example demonstrates that such qualities are possible and practical. Their light illuminates the potential that already exists within you. This ripple effect of ethical influence operates mostly through quiet example rather than dramatic gestures. The colleague who consistently treats everyone with respect, regardless of their position in the company hierarchy, shows others how to create dignity in the workplace. The neighbor who always speaks honestly but kindly demonstrates how to address difficult topics without causing harm. The friend who keeps confidences and honors commitments shows the value and possibility of trustworthiness. Over time, communities of ethical practitioners support each other in maintaining high standards of integrity. When ethical living becomes normalized rather than exceptional, it creates a positive feedback loop where good choices are reinforced by social support rather than undermined by peer pressure toward harmful behavior. This collective ethical foundation then supports individual well-being while contributing to the health of society as a whole. Developing a daily ethics practice begins with paying attention to the choices you make in ordinary moments throughout each day. Start by noticing opportunities to speak truthfully, act kindly, and treat others with respect. These opportunities arise constantly in small interactions: how you respond to a store clerk, whether you keep a commitment when it becomes inconvenient, how you handle a mistake that only you know about. Each ethical choice strengthens your character like a bamboo root growing deeper and wider. Each time you choose integrity over convenience, kindness over self-centeredness, or respect over judgment, you're investing in the unshakable foundation that will support you through any storm. This isn't about moral perfection, but about consistent direction toward your highest values. Remember that, like bamboo, your ethical foundation grows gradually through daily practice. Be patient with the process and celebrate small steps toward greater integrity. Each day offers fresh opportunities to align your actions with your deepest wisdom, creating the unshakable peace that comes from living in harmony with your truest nature. One of the most profound teachings of Buddhism centers on the idea of letting go. The Buddha taught that the root of suffering is attachment. Our desire to cling to specific results, people, or circumstances often creates unnecessary pain and frustration. When we hold tightly to how we want life to unfold, we set ourselves up for disappointment. But what if peace comes from surrender? What if letting go is the key to flowing with life's natural rhythm? The Buddha's insight into attachment emerged from his deep observation of human suffering. He noticed that people weren't just suffering from external circumstances like illness, aging, or loss. They were creating additional suffering through their relationship to these inevitable experiences. The pain of loss was compounded by the mental anguish of refusing to accept that loss had occurred. The discomfort of change was intensified by desperately trying to keep things exactly as they were. This discovery revealed something revolutionary about the nature of suffering itself. While we cannot avoid all painful experiences, the Buddha called these the first arrow of suffering. We can learn to avoid the second arrow of our resistance to what's happening. The first arrow might be the pain of illness, the sadness of goodbye, or the frustration of plans falling through. The second arrow is our mental struggle against these experiences, our refusal to accept them, our desperate attempts to make reality different than it is. The Buddha observed that attachment operates on many levels simultaneously. We attach to material possessions, wanting to keep what we have and acquire what we lack. We attach to people, trying to control their behavior or ensure they never leave us. We attach to our self-image, defending our ego against any threat to how we see ourselves. We attach to our plans, becoming upset when life doesn't unfold according to our timeline or expectations. But perhaps most subtly, we attach to our attachments themselves. We believe that caring deeply requires clinging tightly, that love means possessiveness, that commitment means control. The Buddha's teaching reveals a different possibility, that we can care deeply while holding lightly, love fully while respecting freedom, and commit wholeheartedly while remaining open to change. Understanding attachment doesn't mean becoming emotionally distant or indifferent to outcomes. The Buddha wasn't teaching apathy or disconnection from life. He was pointing to a way of engaging fully while maintaining the flexibility to adapt when circumstances change. Like a skilled dancer who moves with the music rather than fighting against it, we can learn to participate actively in life while remaining responsive to its natural flow. The practice of non-attachment begins with recognizing how attachment manifests in daily experience. Notice the tension that arises when someone doesn't respond to your text message immediately. Observe the frustration when traffic makes you late for an appointment. Feel the anxiety when your carefully made plans need to change unexpectedly. These moments of resistance reveal where you're clinging to specific outcomes rather than remaining open to what's actually unfolding. Attachment often disguises itself as reasonable preferences or justified expectations. Of course, you want people to be punctual, technology to work properly, and weather to cooperate with your plans. These preferences are natural and often practical. Attachment becomes problematic when these preferences harden into demands that reality must conform to your wishes, creating suffering when the inevitable gaps appear between expectation and experience. The transformation from attachment to non-attachment happens gradually as you develop what Buddhism calls equanimity, a balanced state of mind that remains stable regardless of whether things go according to plan. This doesn't mean you stop having preferences or working toward goals. It means you hold your preferences lightly and pursue your goals with dedication while remaining open to different outcomes than you originally envisioned. Non-attachment also reveals itself in how you relate to success and failure. When things go well, you can appreciate and enjoy the positive experience without becoming addicted to it or demanding that it continue forever. When things go poorly, you can acknowledge the difficulty without making it mean something permanent about your worth or your future possibilities. Both success and failure become temporary weather patterns passing through the sky of your awareness rather than permanent conditions that define your identity. This practice becomes particularly powerful in relationships, where attachment often masquerades as love. True love wants the best for another person, even when that best doesn't align with your personal preferences. Attachment wants people to behave in ways that make you comfortable, secure, or happy. Non-attachment allows you to love fully, while respecting others' freedom to make their own choices, even when those choices disappoint or challenge you. The path of non-attachment ultimately leads to what the Buddha called liberation, freedom from the constant stress of trying to control an inherently uncontrollable world. This liberation doesn't separate you from life, but allows you to engage with it more skillfully, responding to what's actually happening, rather than fighting against what you wish weren't happening. Life can be understood as a vast river with its own current, direction, and power. This river represents the natural flow of existence, the continuous movement of birth and death, growth and decay, coming together and falling apart that characterizes all phenomena. You are both part of this river and a conscious participant in it, capable of navigating skillfully while respecting its fundamental nature. When you try to move against the river's current, progress becomes exhausting and inefficient. Imagine paddling upstream with all your strength, fighting against the natural flow of water. Every stroke requires enormous effort. Your boat gets tossed around by the opposing current, and you might end up further from your destination than when you started. Worse yet, all your energy goes into struggling with the river, leaving no attention available for enjoying the journey or appreciating the landscape along the banks. This upstream struggle is what happens when you resist the natural changes and challenges that life brings. Fighting against aging, denying the reality of loss, refusing to accept that relationships evolve, or demanding that external circumstances always support your plans. The resistance doesn't stop these natural processes. It just makes experiencing them much more difficult and painful than necessary. But when you learn to move with the river's current, everything changes. You can still steer your boat and choose your general direction, but you're working with the water's natural movement rather than against it. Your paddle strokes become efficient and purposeful, guiding rather than forcing. You cover more distance with less effort, arriving at destinations you might never have discovered if you had been rigidly focused on fighting your way to predetermined locations. Moving with life's current doesn't mean becoming passive or abandoning all goals and preferences. A skilled river navigator still has destinations in mind and actively works to reach them. But they understand that the most effective path often involves following the river's natural bends and taking advantage of its helpful currents, rather than trying to force a straight line through turbulent water. This approach requires developing what might be called strategic flexibility, the ability to maintain your overall direction while adapting your specific methods to current conditions. If the river takes an unexpected turn, you adjust your course rather than exhausting yourself trying to paddle through solid rock. If rapids appear ahead, you prepare to navigate them skillfully rather than pretending they don't exist or demanding that they move out of your way. The river metaphor also illustrates how present moment awareness becomes essential for skillful navigation. When you're fighting against the current, you're usually focused on where you think you should be rather than where you actually are. But when you're moving with the flow, you need to pay careful attention to current conditions, the speed of the water, the presence of obstacles, the opportunities for easier passage. This attention to what's actually happening right now, rather than what you wish were happening, allows you to respond wisely to each moment as it unfolds. Sometimes the river moves slowly through peaceful meadows, allowing for easy navigation and plenty of time to enjoy the scenery. These are life's calm periods when things flow smoothly and challenges are minimal. During these times, moving with the current feels natural and effortless. You can relax into the gentle movement and appreciate the beauty around you without much effort or skill required. But the river also includes rapids, narrow channels, and unexpected obstacles that require all your attention and skill to navigate safely. These represent life's challenging periods, times of illness, loss, conflict, or major change that demand your full presence and wisdom. During these intense passages, moving with the current becomes both more difficult and more essential. Fighting against rapids is dangerous and futile, but navigating them skillfully can carry you through to calmer waters downstream. The key insight is that both the peaceful stretches and the challenging rapids are part of the same river. You can't have one without the other, and trying to avoid all difficulty would mean missing out on the full experience of being alive. The goal isn't to find a river with no rapids, but to develop the skills and wisdom to navigate whatever waters you encounter with grace and competence. This river wisdom also teaches patience with life's natural timing. Rivers don't move according to human schedules or preferences. Sometimes the current is fast and you reach destinations quickly. Sometimes it's slow and progress seems minimal. Sometimes the river takes you exactly where you wanted to go. Sometimes it carries you somewhere completely unexpected that turns out to be exactly where you needed to be. Learning to trust the river's timing means releasing your attachment to controlling exactly when and how things happen in your life. You can still work toward your goals and make plans, but you hold them lightly, understanding that the optimal timing for outcomes might be different than what you originally imagined. This trust doesn't come from naive optimism, but from repeated experience that life's natural unfolding often brings gifts and opportunities that rigid planning would have missed. The suffering that comes from clinging too tightly to outcomes, people, or circumstances can be understood through a simple physical metaphor. Imagine holding a handful of sand. When you cup your hands gently and keep them open, the sand rests comfortably in your palms, and you can enjoy its texture and warmth. But if you squeeze your hands tightly, trying to prevent any grains from escaping, the sand gets pressed against your palms uncomfortably, and most of it slips between your fingers anyway. The tighter you grip, the more you lose, and the more uncomfortable the experience becomes. This is exactly how clinging works in emotional and psychological terms. When you hold your relationships, goals, and experiences with an open heart, you can fully appreciate and enjoy them while they're present. But when you try to grasp them tightly, demanding that they never change or leave, you create tension and anxiety that actually diminishes your ability to appreciate what you have. The energy that could be spent enjoying the present moment gets consumed by the futile effort to control the future. Clinging often intensifies the very thing you're trying to avoid. When you cling to a relationship out of fear of abandonment, your possessiveness and control often push the other person away. When you cling to security out of fear of loss, your rigidity often prevents you from adapting to changes that could actually improve your situation. When you cling to your self-image out of fear of criticism, your defensiveness often provokes exactly the kind of conflict you were trying to avoid. The Buddha observed that clinging creates a particular kind of mental suffering that he called dukkha, a word that encompasses everything from mild dissatisfaction to intense anguish. This suffering doesn't come from external circumstances themselves, but from the gap between what's actually happening and what you demand should be happening. The larger this gap, the more intense your suffering becomes. This understanding reveals why two people can experience the same external situation with completely different levels of suffering. One person loses their job and feels devastated because they were clinging to that particular position as their source of identity and security. Another person loses their job and feels disappointed but curious about new opportunities because they weren't defining themselves entirely through their employment. The external event is identical, but the internal experience depends on how tightly each person was clinging to specific outcomes. Clinging also creates what psychologists call tunnel vision, a narrowing of awareness that prevents you from seeing creative solutions or alternative possibilities. When you're desperately focused on making one specific thing work out, you miss opportunities that might be even better than what you originally wanted. When you're clinging to how you think things should be, you're not fully present to appreciate how things actually are. The practice of releasing clinging begins with recognizing when you're in the grip of attachment. Physical tension often accompanies emotional clinging. Notice if your jaw is clenched, your shoulders are tight, or your breathing has become shallow. Mental signs include obsessive thinking about specific outcomes, inability to enjoy present moments because you're worried about the future, or feeling like your happiness depends entirely on things working out exactly as planned. Once you recognize clinging, the next step is gently loosening your grip, rather than trying to force yourself to let go completely. Like opening a tightly clenched fist, this process works best when done gradually and with compassion for yourself. You might start by acknowledging that while you have strong preferences about how things unfold, you don't actually have complete control over outcomes. This recognition can create enough space for your nervous system to relax slightly, reducing the intensity of your attachment. Remember that letting go of clinging doesn't mean you stop caring or cease working toward your goals. It means you care deeply while holding outcomes lightly, working diligently while remaining open to results different than what you originally envisioned. This balance allows you to invest fully in your efforts without creating suffering when reality doesn't match your expectations perfectly. The Buddha's teaching that you only lose what you cling to points to one of the most liberating insights in all of human wisdom. This doesn't mean that external losses never happen. People die, relationships end, jobs disappear, health changes. It means that your essential well-being doesn't depend on preventing these natural changes from occurring. When you're not clinging to temporary phenomena as the source of your peace, their inevitable changes can't destroy your fundamental happiness. What you truly are, your capacity for awareness, love, wisdom, and presence, cannot be lost because it was never dependent on external circumstances. These qualities belong to your essential nature, rather than to the temporary roles, possessions, or relationships that come and go throughout your life. When you identify with this unchanging essence, rather than with changing circumstances, you discover a security that no external loss can threaten. This teaching reveals the difference between having and being. Everything you have is temporary and subject to change. But what you are, consciousness itself, remains constant through all changes. When you stop trying to find security in what you have and start recognizing the security that comes from what you are, you discover true freedom. The practice of sacred trust involves learning to surrender control without giving up responsibility or effort. This might seem like a contradiction, but it represents one of the most sophisticated spiritual skills humans can develop. Sacred trust means doing your best with whatever situation you're facing, while acknowledging that you cannot control all the factors that influence outcomes. This practice begins with distinguishing between what is within your control and what is not. You can control your effort, your attitude, your choices, and your responses to whatever happens. You cannot control other people's decisions, natural events, economic conditions, or countless other factors that influence your life. Sacred trust means focusing your energy on what you can influence while accepting what you cannot change. But this acceptance isn't passive resignation or fatalistic indifference. It's an active trust in the intelligence and benevolence of life itself. This trust develops gradually as you accumulate evidence that your life has been guided by a wisdom larger than your personal planning abilities. Looking back, you can often see that unexpected changes, apparent setbacks, and surprising opportunities have contributed to your growth and well-being in ways you couldn't have orchestrated deliberately. Sacred trust also includes trusting your own ability to meet whatever challenges arise. You don't need to know in advance how you'll handle future difficulties. You can trust that when the time comes, you'll have access to the resources, wisdom, and support you need to respond appropriately. This trust isn't based on naive optimism, but on evidence from your past experience of successfully navigating challenges you initially thought were beyond your capabilities. Developing sacred trust often requires releasing the belief that your personal planning and control are the primary forces shaping your life. While planning and effort are certainly important, they work best when coordinated with larger patterns and opportunities that you cannot see in advance. Sacred trust means doing your part while remaining open to guidance and support from sources beyond your individual intelligence. This doesn't require belief in any particular religious or spiritual system. It simply requires recognizing that your individual consciousness is part of a larger intelligence that includes the wisdom of nature, the accumulated knowledge of humanity, and the mysterious organizing principles that coordinate countless variables in your daily life. Trusting this larger intelligence allows you to relax into collaboration rather than exhausting yourself, trying to manage everything independently. Sacred trust becomes particularly important during periods of uncertainty when you cannot see clear paths forward. These times of not knowing can be deeply uncomfortable because they challenge the illusion of control and force you to acknowledge how much of life operates beyond your understanding. But uncertainty can also become sacred space where new possibilities emerge that would never have appeared if you had been rigidly controlling every variable. The practice of sacred trust transforms uncertainty from a problem to be solved into a doorway to be entered with curiosity and openness. Instead of trying to eliminate all unknowns before taking action, you learn to take wise action while acknowledging that you cannot predict all consequences. This balance between discernment and surrender allows you to engage fully with life while maintaining the flexibility to adapt when new information or opportunities arise. Here's a gentle practice for releasing control and opening to life's natural flow that you can use whenever you notice yourself clinging tightly to specific outcomes. Find a comfortable position where you can sit quietly for a few minutes without interruption. Close your eyes softly and take 3 slow, deep breaths, allowing each exhale to release any tension you're holding in your body. Bring to mind a situation where you've been trying to control the outcome or holding tightly to how things should unfold. Don't judge this clinging as wrong. It's a natural human response to uncertainty and a sign that you care deeply about what happens. Simply acknowledge that you've been gripping tightly and that this grip might be creating more stress than necessary. Now imagine holding this situation like a bird resting in your open palms. You can appreciate the bird's beauty, feel its warmth, and enjoy its presence for as long as it chooses to stay with you. But you cannot force it to remain, and trying to close your hands around it would only frighten it away or cause harm to both of you. With each breath, practice the art of holding without grasping. Let your hands remain open, your heart stay soft, and your mind maintain spaciousness around whatever you've been trying to control. If the bird chooses to fly away, trust that its departure creates space for whatever wants to arrive next in your life. As you breathe, silently repeat these words of release. I do my best and trust the process. I hold my preferences lightly and remain open to what wants to emerge. I am guided by wisdom larger than my personal understanding. Let these phrases become like a gentle river, carrying away your need to control every detail of how your life unfolds. When you're ready, slowly open your eyes and carry this quality of open-handed engagement into your day. Remember that letting go doesn't mean you stop caring or cease taking appropriate action. It means you care so deeply that you're willing to trust the mysterious intelligence that coordinates all life, knowing that your sincere efforts will be supported by forces of wisdom and love beyond your individual capacity to arrange. As we reach the end of this journey together, you now possess 6 profound keys to inner freedom that have guided seekers toward peace for over 2,500 years. These aren't separate teachings to be practiced in isolation, but interconnected principles that weave together into one harmonious path toward unshakable peace. Like the roots of the bamboo we explored earlier, these teachings support each other, creating a foundation strong enough to weather any storm while remaining flexible enough to bend with life's inevitable changes. The first principle, that no one can truly hurt you, establishes your sovereignty over your inner world. When you understand that your peace doesn't depend on other people's behavior, you're free to respond rather than react, to choose wisdom over defensiveness. This inner sovereignty becomes the foundation for all other practices because it establishes that your well-being comes from within rather than from external validation or perfect circumstances. The second principle, seeing every person as a teacher, transforms this sovereignty from isolation into connection. Instead of using your inner strength to build walls against difficult people, you use it to remain open to what everyone has to offer. Your unshakable core allows you to learn from kindness without becoming dependent on it, and to learn from difficulty without being overwhelmed by it. Every interaction becomes an opportunity to practice the very sovereignty you've been cultivating. The third principle, accepting what is and letting go of what was, provides the practical framework for applying your inner strength moment by moment. When you stop fighting against reality, your energy becomes available for responding wisely to whatever you're actually facing. This acceptance doesn't weaken your sovereignty, but strengthens it by freeing you from the exhausting battle against circumstances you cannot change. You become like water, finding the most natural path through any terrain while maintaining your essential nature. The fourth principle, gratitude for what you have, fills your acceptance with appreciation rather than resignation. When you can find genuine reasons for thankfulness, even in challenging circumstances, you discover that abundance is a way of seeing rather than a result of acquiring. This gratitude makes acceptance joyful rather than bitter, transforming surrender into celebration of the gifts that are always present if you have eyes to see them. The fifth principle, ethical living, ensures that your inner freedom serves wisdom rather than selfishness. When your actions arise from honesty, kindness, and respect, you create harmony between your inner values and outer behavior. This alignment eliminates the internal conflict that undermines peace and builds the kind of character that remains stable regardless of external pressures. Your ethics become the expression of your unshakable core rather than rules imposed from outside. The sixth principle, trusting the process through letting go, completes the circle by freeing you from the need to control outcomes. When you can act with full dedication while holding results lightly, you discover the freedom that comes from doing your best without attachment to specific consequences. This trust allows you to engage wholeheartedly with life while maintaining the equanimity that defines unshakable peace. Notice how each principle supports and strengthens the others. Your inner sovereignty makes it safe to see difficult people as teachers. Seeing everyone as a teacher makes acceptance easier because you're learning from whatever appears. Acceptance makes gratitude possible because you're not fighting against what's here. Gratitude motivates ethical behavior because you want to contribute positively to the web of life that supports you. Ethical living builds the integrity that makes trust possible, and trust completes the circle by freeing you from the need to defend or control. Together, these 6 principles create what we might call a feedback loop of freedom. Each practice reinforces the others, gradually building momentum toward a way of being that feels natural rather than forced. Instead of having to remember 6 separate techniques, you develop an integrated approach to life that automatically includes wisdom, compassion, and peace in your responses to whatever arises. This integration doesn't happen overnight. Like the bamboo that grows slowly and steadily, developing both deep roots and flexible strength, your practice will deepen gradually over months and years. Some days you'll feel connected to all 6 principles simultaneously. Other days you might find yourself working primarily with 1 or 2. Both experiences are part of the natural rhythm of spiritual development. The key is consistency rather than perfection. Each time you choose to respond rather than react, to see difficulty as teaching, to accept what you cannot change, to appreciate what you have, to act with integrity, or to trust life's process. You're strengthening the neural pathways that make these responses more automatic. Over time, unshakable peace becomes your default setting rather than something you have to work hard to achieve. Integrating these Buddhist teachings into your daily life begins with choosing one principle that resonates most strongly with your current needs and circumstances. Perhaps you're dealing with difficult relationships and need to focus on the teaching that no one can truly hurt you. Maybe you're facing major changes and need to practice acceptance and letting go. Or you might be struggling with criticism and need to cultivate gratitude for what's working well in your life. Start small and be specific. Instead of trying to transform your entire approach to life immediately, identify particular situations where you can practice your chosen principle. For example, if you're working with inner sovereignty, you might practice during your commute by choosing not to take other drivers' behavior personally. If you're focusing on seeing everyone as a teacher, you might practice during interactions with service workers by staying curious about what each encounter might offer. Create simple reminders that help you remember to practice. This might be a note on your bathroom mirror, a reminder on your phone, or a small object in your pocket that you touch when you want to reconnect with your intention. The goal isn't to practice perfectly, but to practice consistently, gradually building the habits of wisdom into your ordinary activities. Pay attention to the results of your practice without judging yourself when you forget or fall back into old patterns. Notice how you feel when you respond to criticism with inner sovereignty versus when you react defensively. Observe the difference in your relationships when you approach difficult people as teachers versus when you see them as obstacles. Let the fruits of practice motivate continued commitment rather than forcing yourself to practice out of obligation. As you become more comfortable with one principle, gradually begin incorporating others. You might start your day with gratitude practice. Use the sovereignty teaching during challenging interactions, and end your day by reflecting on what you learned from the people you encountered. Over time, these practices will begin to blend into a seamless approach to living that includes wisdom, compassion, and peace as natural elements of your daily experience. Remember that these teachings are meant to serve life, not complicate it. If your practice becomes another source of stress or self-criticism, you're probably trying too hard or expecting too much, too quickly. The path to unshakable peace should feel like coming home to your true nature, rather than forcing yourself to become someone different. Trust your own wisdom about what you need most and how quickly to proceed. Also remember that practice deepens in community. Share these teachings with others, not by preaching, but by embodying them in your interactions. When people ask about the source of your increasing peace and wisdom, you can point them toward these ancient teachings that have guided your own transformation. Your example becomes part of how these timeless principles continue to spread in the world, lighting other lamps without diminishing your own flame. When you cultivate unshakable peace within yourself, you create ripples of healing that extend far beyond your personal experience. Your transformed presence becomes a gift to everyone you encounter, offering them a living example of how human beings can remain calm and wise, even in challenging circumstances. This influence operates quietly and naturally, without any need for you to preach or try to change others directly. Consider how you feel when you're around someone who embodies genuine peace and wisdom. Their presence tends to calm your nervous system, inspire your own better angels, and remind you of possibilities you might have forgotten. They don't need to say anything profound. Their way of being speaks more powerfully than words. This is the ripple effect you create when you embody the teachings we've explored together. Your unshakable peace gives others permission to access their own inner stability. In a world where reactivity and anxiety often feel contagious, your groundedness becomes a refuge that reminds people of their own capacity for calm. Your ability to remain centered during conflict shows others that such centeredness is possible. Your gratitude in difficult circumstances demonstrates that appreciation is a choice available to everyone. The ripples extend to future generations as well. Children who grow up around adults practicing these principles learn by osmosis that wisdom and compassion are normal human capacities rather than extraordinary achievements. They internalize models of how to respond to challenge with grace, how to treat others with respect, and how to find peace within themselves, regardless of external circumstances. Your practice becomes part of the wisdom you pass forward, contributing to a more peaceful world. Even your approach to global challenges changes when you embody these teachings. Instead of adding to the world's anxiety and reactivity, you respond to social and environmental problems from a place of wisdom and compassion. Your actions become more effective because they arise from clarity rather than panic, from love rather than fear. You contribute to solutions rather than amplifying problems, becoming part of the healing the world desperately needs. As we conclude this journey together, I want to remind you that you're not alone on this path. For over 2,500 years, countless seekers have found freedom through these same teachings. You're part of what Buddhists call the Sangha, the community of practitioners supporting each other's awakening. This community exists across time and space, connecting you to wisdom keepers of the past and fellow travelers in the present. Your practice contributes to this larger community of peace. Every moment you choose wisdom over reactivity, compassion over defensiveness, or trust over control, you strengthen the field of consciousness that makes these choices easier for others. You become part of the solution to humanity's suffering, not through grand gestures, but through the quiet revolution of transforming your own heart and mind. Take a moment now to appreciate how far you've traveled on this journey. You began by imagining a life where your mind remains calm, like still water, untouched by the storms that once disturbed your peace. You now have 6 practical keys for making that vision a living reality. You understand that unshakable peace isn't about avoiding life's challenges, but about meeting them with wisdom, compassion, and grace. Carry these teachings gently into your life. Remember that the path to freedom is walked one step at a time, one choice at a time, one breath at a time. Trust the process of gradual transformation, celebrating small victories and learning from temporary setbacks. Know that you have everything you need within you to live with unshakable peace, and that this peace is your gift not only to yourself, but to all beings you encounter along the way. May you find the strength of bamboo in life's storms, bending but never breaking, rooted in wisdom and reaching toward light. May you walk in peace, knowing that you are unshakable.